All right, peeps, on today's episode of the Kung Fu Genius, the genius will be answering all sorts of hot nonsense from YouTube. Lots of gems, lots of weapon retention, lots of don't be coming up in here with your 7-foot ass talking about I learned up to the wooden dummy, but you can't defend a straight punch. Let's get to it.
And every day, I practice martial arts.
Yo, Dre, how you doing, man?
I am superb, Suifu. How are you today?
Good, man. You know, there's something about today's episode.
What is it?
I can feel it coming in the air, you know?
Tonight.
Or
right now.
Hold on, all right? What questions you got for me today?
Oh, man. Let's go right into it.
All right, let's do it.
Straight up, out the gate, Andrew Lin. You know who he is.
I do know that.
He's the dopest dude.
He's the dopest dude.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because he makes me look great.
Absolutely. Which is difficult. You know why? Because I can imagine that editing an episode of KFG really puts you in a land of confusion.
I gotta say the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are your thoughts on training knife and gun? Excuse me. I had on a case of the giggles for some reason. Let me breathe. What are your thoughts on training knife and gun defense in martial arts? Is it helpful in self-defense, or is it pointless to train them given how likely you are to get hurt trying to fight someone without a weapon? No, trying to fight someone with a weapon?
That's a great question, man.
Ooh.
Think about what we do here. We come here on a Saturday.
Yeah.
We get to talk Kung Fu, answer
to
all these
train
great
Kung
questions,
Fu.
and we get to train Kung Fu. It's amazing, man.
Yeah.
In honesty, it's just another day for you and me in paradise.
Oh,
right?
It's
Think
the
about
perfect
it.
paradise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect
paradise.
paradise.
All right. So let's talk about it. All right. Andrew, you might need to do some editing because we're going to be giggling a little bit in this episode. We found out that Mikey Deane is a huge Phil Collins at Genesis fan. So in order to make him feel at home,
Make him feel at home.
we'll talk about it. We'll throw some lyrics every now and again.
Yeah, you're
all
going to
right?
have to do some editing
But
definitely
we're-
when I start dropping F-bombs against this.
I'm glad I got my... See if you need tissue.
No, this is another day for you and me in Yeah. I know. It's a good thing that we figured out this podcast and I figured out that I can teach Kung Fu because I can't dance. All right.
So great. So great that you figured this out early in life.
And in Wing Chun, you know, we actually have to stick to our opponent's arms. You cannot rely on an invisible touch. All right. So,
I am...
spoiler alert, never tell me what band you hate or singer you don't like. Because I will go for the long game on that shit.
Oh, man.
Hey, Kung Fu Genius listeners, if you're looking for an easy way to support this podcast, please consider joining the Kung Fu Genius Patreon. You can support for as little as $5 a month and get access to episodes a few days early. Higher levels of support get additional goodies, exclusive content, and even your name in the description. The baller level of support will give you the opportunity to be a Dre for a day and give me a rest from this guy over here. A link for the Kung Fu Genius Patreon page is in the description below. You can also support us by subscribing to the Kung Fu Genius on YouTube, liking this video, and sharing it on your social media platforms. When you subscribe on YouTube, don't forget to hit that bell for notifications so you will know as soon as a new episode or a premiere is available for you to watch. For those of us who listen to us on audio, it's a huge help if you don't just rate the podcast, but also write a review wherever you listen to the Kung Fu Genius, such as Apple or Google Podcasts. I really appreciate it. And now back to me. Yeah, so weapons defense, in general, let's say gun and knife, all right, are things that I'm not a huge fan of. And I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, if you look around in the martial arts world, there's a lot of kind of bullshito kind of stuff against weapons where they're highly underestimating the intelligence of the person who is attacking you with a weapon and highly overestimating how easy it is to disarm someone or to stop them from doing something to you, right?
Yeah.
And this is why, kind of in the landscape of martial arts weapons defense, all right? I think that sometimes you can have a reasonable ability to defend yourself against a blunt object, right? If someone comes at you with a stick or a club or an umbrella or something like that, right? And they take like a big wild swing. If you have a good sense of distance and timing. You can make the guy miss. You can go in and crowd and take away the distance needed to use that weapon and go in and strike and potentially disarm the person. But that is also only if the person attacking you is not a trained killer with those weapons, all right? So, of course, if the person attacking you with the stick or the club or the umbrella has had training in Eskrima or Kali or any weapons art for that matter, all right, then you don't have a chance.
You know, I had a woman try to hit me with a stanchion before. You know what a stanchion is?
A stanchion?
A stanchion.
Oh, you mean...
the red velvet ropes?
Yes, exactly.
She literally tried to hit me as I was walking. We threw her out. And when I was a bouncer, we threw her out. And as I'm walking away to go back downstairs into the club, I feel that stanchion about to hit me in the back.
Like a spidey sense tingling?
And I did the chum cue step, where you step forward and do your turn. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Came in perfect timing.
I've got a question for you
What's
there,
that?
because the thing is, right, I also worked in nightlife, and I know how heavy those stanchions are, right? So what, was she high, or was she like a power lifter?
She just slapped a bouncer, and we threw her out. She was on something.
Right. So
Awesome.
She had meth muscles.
She had awesomeness in her. Because
she was on that Hulk blood serum.
We just got her out there. She passed into the gutter, and stanchion's right there. And I think I heard it. You hear the iron part off the cement. You're like, whoa.
Right.
Turn. I was like, what?
I figured you getting attacked with a stanchion was an almost daily occurrence in your life.
Not even when you're at the club.
Yeah, mainly from people who actually know you.
Yeah.
Disgruntled
no
podcast
stanchions
fans
are around, but they
who don't want another damn Dyson or Dr. Ison question.
Hey, they end up in the scroll. I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, but you're the one who picks them. So anyway, so when it comes to weapons defense, all right, if the person is trained in any kind of weapons martial art, then you can absolutely forget it. Even if they have minimal training, you're going to have a little bit of a hard time dealing with that, because when you look at most kind of stick and club defense, it's usually against someone who holds a stick or a club and comes with this like really wide looping kind of obviously telegraphed kind of attack. And the person can then, regardless of what martial art, they have their way of solving that thing, right? The thing is that if you actually learn how to use, even if you learn basic rudimentary Eskrima or Kali, you're not going to run in flying like this, super wide open with this super telegraphed attack. You're going to have your hands nice and tight, almost like in a boxing position. And these are going to be short, quick hits that are going to retract. These are not going to be widely telegraphed movements. Yeah. So, therein already lies the problem. If the person is very measured with the weapon and they're kind of, toying at you and doing these quick little short hits, well, good luck trying to disarm that person without a better weapon, all right? It's just not going to happen unless they absolutely make a mistake or slip on a banana peel. So, however, if someone grabs a weapon, like an umbrella. Think about like on the subway, someone just gets pissed off. They have a cane, they have an umbrella, they have something like that, and they come swinging at you. Okay, this is a slightly different story for two reasons. One, we're not talking about a trained martial artist that actually has knowledge of this weapon coming at you. We're talking about somebody who's just pissed off at you. You piss them off for whatever Dyson reason, right? Yeah. And two, this is an attack that's done out of rage. We're not talking about someone who's doing something calm and measured or trying to defend themselves or has some kind of wits about them. They're so pissed off that they're going to attack you with something. So they're coming at you with rage, with this wild attack. It's not measured. It's a little bit obvious, and it's not clean or anything, right? So if you're able to make them miss, or you're able to close the gap and disarm, or close the gap and hit them, or wrap the weapon, or latch onto it, or whatever, you do have a chance. Which is why when I teach my students how to defend against like stick and club attacks, we do it against the kind of wild, obvious...
Club attack meaning nightclub attack?
Not nightclub attack, like a club in your hand,
like,
right?
Okay, gotcha.
We do it against the more wild, telegraphed attack done at rage. Not because that is a representation for, martial arts that use weapons, but that's a representation for the crazy dude that's grabbed something and is now trying to knock your head over with it, right? Because the moment that person takes that weapon and now puts their hands in a position where it looks like they know what they're doing, you better be running. You better be running.
Okay, man, you got this.
Yeah. You
negotiate.
You put your hands in some kind of defensive posture back up here, and he smacks you right in the hands, right? You put your hands in the Zhong Sao, he's going to smack your front hand, right? So if the guy looks like he knows what he's doing, you don't have a chance. The thing is that if we're talking about self-defense, it shouldn't ever come to that, because if the guy grabs his weapon, you should already be on them anyway. They go to draw their weapon, you should be able to go and close the gap if you're close enough to do that. If there's distance between you and the guy and the person looks like they know what they're doing, good luck. And even if they don't know what they're doing, that doesn't really make it any easier. The only reasonable chance you have against something like that is if someone grabs a stick, a club, an umbrella, a baseball bat, and just runs at you in rage in a completely unmeasured way. And you have practiced that, of course, regularly. And you either see that you're going to close the gap and try to take that weapon, hold on to it, latch onto it, get inside that danger zone where the weapon is most dangerous, or you're going to let that thing miss and then close the gap, or you're just going to run. But the moment the guy starts, tapping the stick down and flipping around and doing abanicos in the air, man, get the fuck out of there, okay? So that's why when it comes to weapons defense, all right, the only one that I generally teach at City Wing Chun is stick or club, and only against just some maniac coming at you at rage, not against somebody who knows what they're doing. I have far too much respect for people who train Filipino martial arts or any weapon martial art to think that I can teach the students how to do something, we do it a couple times in a instructional cycle, but let's say we do stick defense. Like, even if you did it once a month or a couple times a month, all right? Do you now then, and that's just one part of what you do in your Wing Chun training. Obviously you have your form, your chi sao, your sparring, all your conditioning, all that kind of stuff, right? And then maybe a couple times a month we grab the padded sticks and whack the hell out of each other. Okay, you get a little bit of experience. Hopefully you get enough experience to know this is kind of an effed situation that I don't want to be in, right? If I can give the students anything, it's an appreciation for how dangerous those situations are, so that they don't walk around down the street thinking like, yeah, well, come at me, bro, with your weapon. I know something, right? I hope that would not be the attitude or takeaway that my students would have after I teach them, like, how we defend, like, kind of the 5 basic strikes, right? It's really just against some maniac coming at you in rage with a very telegraphed and obvious attack. Otherwise, get out of there. So we can almost compartmentalize the different, we can compartmentalize the different types of weapons. If it's a club or a stick or an umbrella or a bat, and those aforementioned characteristics are there about the attack, you might have a chance if you've trained it, all right? But if the person knows what they're doing, forget it. Okay, so we can leave like stick and club and all that stuff now out of the equation, because what do people really think about when we talk about weapons defense? They think about gun and knife.
Gun and knife.
Okay, so this is now a totally different kind of, this is a different can of worms here, right? So let me talk about gun first, all right? So even there, when you just say gun, this is a very open and broad theme. Okay, so what exactly are we talking about? Are we talking about someone who's come up to you and they're like pointing the gun in your stomach, like, yeah, give me your wallet, see? Yeah, all right, and the broad too, all right, okay. Right. Are we talking about that situation, right? Man. Are we talking about someone holding a gun to your head? Are we talking about someone holding a gun to your back? Or are we talking about someone at distance pointing a gun at you? Okay, so when people just say, in this very kind of monolithic way, gun defense, okay? In what situation, all right? Because there are certain situations with a gun where if you have no choice but to defend yourself, you might have a chance if you've trained and you know what you're doing, okay? And there are other situations where you really don't have much of a chance, so you either have to decide, I'm not going to do anything. I mean, if it's a matter of robbery or something like that, or you don't think the person is going to shoot you unless you provoke them, then, then you would probably not want to do something to provoke that, right? If you're in a situation where you think the person is probably going to shoot you anyway. Then you have to make a decision, all right, about, going in, rushing, trying to move in a way where maybe if they do shoot you, it's not going to be somewhere life-threatening. But even then, I mean, you have to make these calculations in real time under such massive amount of stress and adrenaline that it's very easy to say it here as if it's like a very cool and clinical thing you would be deciding, but it's not, all right? This is probably one of the worst situations you would imagine yourself in. Now, if someone has a gun pointed at you at close range, meaning that you're at a range where you could potentially grab the weapon, all right? In certain situations, the guy's holding the gun in front of you, but very close, or the proverbial on your chest, or side of head, or whatever, and you think the person is going to try to shoot you anyway, all right? And you have trained in something that can hopefully protect yourself, then you might have a chance, okay? But you have to know what you're doing. I have, as a martial arts instructor, I've in the EWTO, in the European Wing Chun organization, they taught some gun defense and gun retention stuff, like at close range, similar kind of situations, right? Because when someone holds a gun to you, and they're talking to you, and if you're able to get the person to kind of glitch for a moment, okay? Because, if you can throw a monkey wrench in the whole mechanics of them thinking and talking to you, you can potentially create this kind of like startled response where in that moment you can do something where they cannot really react, right?
Yeah, they're
like
confused.
They're confused, and you say, where'd you park your car? What? And like this, and the moment they're thinking about that question, you go and you take it, right? But you have to have nerves of steel, and you have to have lots of training to be like that, right?
Yeah.
So it is possible, but the amount of training required, it has to then be a regular part of what you do. Gun defense cannot be something you do once a quarter in your martial arts class. If you want to have a reasonable expectation of defending a gun, you need to do it regularly. Right?
Well, New York City, it happens daily. So
it happens daily.
I've been twice, robbed at gunpoint.
Yeah,
sure. A regular thing for us.
Yeah, that's why we got to bring Kes on the podcast. He's got all sorts of crazy stories, man.
He probably has a
Kes
good...
is the MC, the one who does the Kung Fu Genius rap songs, a fantastic hip-hop MC. Dude, sometimes we just sit with Kes and he just starts telling New York stories from the 90s and the 80s, and I can just sit and listen to that stuff for hours. I would love to have him on the podcast, although it's not Kung Fu themed per se. But Kes's New York stories are the best.
What might be Kung Fu theme is when he's hanging out with his old Sifu.
Yeah, but I don't know how much of that he wants to talk about.
I know.
You know what I mean?
He doesn't want to talk about it at all.
Yeah. So that's the that's the issue there. But I've looked around. So like the EWTO taught some stuff at one point. I learned that stuff, but honestly, I didn't really get into it because I've always had reservations about this stuff. Maybe having grown up in the East Coast, it's like, dude, if somebody wants your wallet, just give them their wallet. For the most part, they're not going to want to shoot you and have to deal with that, right? Yeah. So the idea is like, I am not this like super paranoid guy.
You keep certain money in one pocket and keep the
the
attempt robbery money in the other pocket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a very New York
crumbled dollars.
$4 crumbled dollars and
that's all I got, man.
An expired boat license when you were a teenager, right? I mean that's a very New York thing, by the way. Having like, especially like if you grew up here in the 80s or 90s, having like your bullshit money for the robber, your actual stash somewhere else, right?
Just have it ready.
So I've looked around because, it is a topic that kind of comes up perennially in martial arts. Like, do you guys teach weapons defense? And it just seems like sometimes when I tell people, no, I don't, because I think it's irresponsible. They think that it's a cop-out, or they think that I'm, denying them something. And then they go to another martial arts school that says, yeah, we teach it. And what they teach is absolute trash. I mean, if you look at most weapons retention stuff online, even if you're not very experienced with using those weapons, but you can easily see the problem with a lot of that stuff. Whether it's gun, the way people go for the gun, you can see how the gun could be yanked back and shot, or you could just put the gun in the other hand and shoot. Same thing with a knife, the way people go to control the arm or whatever, and then you can just grab it with your other hand. You got 2-on-1, and then you got a problem there, right? So I've looked around the kind of martial arts landscape in terms of like who really does the best gun and knife stuff. And I have to say there's only one person that I saw that what he teaches really would give you, I would say, the best chance to defend gun and knife. And it's not to say that if you learn these things, you're going to be invincible. And he would be the first person to tell you. But I think Burton Richardson from Jeet Kune Do Unlimited probably has the best weapons defense stuff ever. He teaches Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, among other martial arts, and Jeet Kune Do. And he teaches a whole host of things. But his focus, from what I can tell, has always been for self-defense, not like sport fighting or just purely doing things for the sake of the way Bruce Lee did it or something. His thing is always about being functional for the street. And for example, when he teaches Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he teaches like he calls it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the streets.
Okay.
And not only does he teach like, I guess what you would call standard Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, all the holds and escapes and locks and things like that, but the way he teaches them is always with the idea that punching and kicking and elbows and headbutts and stuff could still be in play. So as opposed to things being done purely from a grappling frame, like the positions that he teaches his students, he's got these safe positions, and they're with the idea that the other guy might try to headbutt you or elbow you or punch you, right? So some things in pure Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu sport grappling is fantastic for the art of jiu-jitsu and grappling. I find that stuff amazing. I love watching sport jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
But that would not necessarily be in the position, you wouldn't want to be in that position on the street where the guy can just start wailing on your groin or headbutting you because you're only doing grappling and you're not paying attention to those things. So not only does Burton Richardson focus on that striking can happen at any moment in his Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but also that weapons can come out. So they do crazy stuff like in the middle of a roll, the dude will pull out a foam knife out of his gi and start trying to stab you, because that's another thing. You could be on the ground, you got the guy in your guard, and then he goes out his back pocket and he starts stabbing you, and you're latching onto him, right? So he has this whole thing like while they roll, one of the types of training that they do there is that the person will actually then pull out a weapon, a gun, like a trainer gun or a trainer knife, in the middle of a roll and try to start stabbing you or shooting you, and you have to then go for full weapons retention stuff. So that already, just that awareness of like, okay, a weapon can suddenly be present. It doesn't have to be, as is often thought of by martial artists, brandished at first. The kind of the archetypical, I have a knife, I pull my knife, and I show you the knife, and then I attack you with said knife.
They don't always have to show it.
No, most of the time they don't. And that's another reason why I'm a bit of a pessimist when it comes to especially knife defense.
Okay.
Because, dude, you grew up in New York, and you know that if someone wants to stab someone, not rob someone with a knife. If someone wants to stab someone with a knife, the last person to know that the person has a knife is the person getting stabbed. Because they're just going to walk up to him, either behind them or in front of him while he's not paying attention, and pull that thing out. And it's the multiple stabs. It's not, hey, look at me. Hey, I'm going to do this super one-dimensional stab while you grab my wrist and wrench the weapon out of my hand so easily, right? It's not that way.
Another thing is the slash. When kids would carry blades in their mouth and slash someone, they would literally hide the blade in their mouth.
Oh yeah, of course. So that's another aspect that kind of makes me a bit of a pessimist when it comes to this stuff. But when I looked at Burton Richardson's stuff, I saw what he was actually teaching in terms of gun retention, like at close range. And I have to say, it's so unbelievably intelligent what he does. Nothing can guarantee your success against a weapon, and he would be the first person to tell you that. But also because he knows how to use firearms, and he makes this a regular part of his training, and he's sought out experts who really know this stuff. He's been able to blend this so well with, he does it, I believe, also with his JKD and stuff like that. But I've only seen his weapons retention in regards to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but the way that he shows people to kind of control the weapon is because it's based on normal human behaviors. When you look at a lot of weapons retention, let's say the guy has a gun and someone will go and grab and move out of the center line, which is obviously important. You don't want to be standing there where you get shot, but they might just hold on to the barrel like this. Well, the other guy will probably just pull the gun out and shoot you. So when Burton Richardson teaches in one of his weapons retentions to then cup the back there, so when he pulls it, you go in and you hold it.
Okay.
So he cannot wrench it out of your hand. And the way, and he's got like, based on how people normally resist, it's not based on martial arts theory. It's based on, okay, you have a gun, you're trying to shoot me. If I do this thing, what are you going to try to do to get it back? And then building a system from there, right?
You know who I like? One time your boy Sifu Vincent Lin came and put in a seminar for us.
Absolutely. He showed some really cool gun stuff, right?
Got my appreciation for that dangerous stuff.
Yeah, dude, it's no joke, man. I actually went shooting a couple weeks ago with my student, Sifu Elliot Leung. He took me out in Connecticut. We went shooting and stuff like that. Yeah. I am not the shooting genius. I might be the kung fu genius, but it's difficult to be accurate with a handgun on those targets from far away because every little inhale, every little inflection you make and move just sends your shots like you just move it a millimeter to the side, but then when you're going all those yards back, it's way off where the target is, right? Wow. So Burton Richardson has a really good weapons retention and weapons defense system, in my opinion, because he takes into account, among other things, the fact that the moment you try to get a weapon from someone, they're going to try to pull and yank that thing away and still use it. And that's, I feel, one of the things that's missing in a lot of weapons retention systems is that you see the guy has a weapon or he attacks with the weapon, and the defense is just to go there, grab it, and somehow wrench it out of the hand, as if the guy's just going to just hold it there. And people are going to violently try to pull their arm back the moment you try to take it away. So you need to have defense techniques that take that into consideration. The moment you go to go for some kind of wrist control, if the guy's trying to stab you, you also have to check the elbow so that he cannot pull it back. So the way he shows to kind of like do a wrist control and a behind the elbow control and pull in to avoid the ability to kind of re-engage the knife, for example, or holding the back of the gun and kind of turning it up as the guy pulls in. These are really, really intelligent things that require a lot of training to be able to do. So the mere fact that you've seen the technique or you've been exposed to it doesn't mean that now somehow you have a chance to reliably use it. But I think outside of like a lot of the stuff Sifu Vincent Lin taught and the stuff that Sifu Burton Richardson does, at least in his JKD, his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the streets, with the knife and the gun and just the general awareness and putting that into the live roles, I haven't seen anything where I go, that's awesome. There are videos online, like there's a couple videos where someone is holding a gun and then you see these super fast weapons retentions, right? Like where the guy has his hands up. There's that one famous one where
there's a guy like a Chicago cop or something.
Yeah, where like he takes the which one? Is that the one with the demo where the guy has his hands up?
I'm not sure, but he has a lot of videos and people make memes about him.
You know what
I'm talking about, Mikey.
Yeah.
I think it's a Chicago cop. Or something.
But like the stuff he shows is like straight bullshit. Yeah, what is that guy? Dust. Detroit urban something.
Oh, he's
something
Detroit,
or another. Yeah,
Chicago. Detroit.
Yeah. That guy's funny. My friend Tom DeBlas, who's like a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu like legend. Yeah. He kept posting a bunch of Dust stuff. And then like just laughing at it. And then he even said that he would like fight him, and that he offered him some money to come, like I don't know, $50K or something like that, for him to just come and fight him, like, and then he got blocked by Dust. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. But no, I mean, there's some actual demonstrations. I remember there's one where someone has a gun pointed to them from behind and another one from the front, I think, and then he's pop, 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 and he takes away. It's very impressive because the speed is really fast, but it's also a demonstration. Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff out there where you see like where the guy's holding the weapon and the other person takes. I mean, even Jackie Chan actually can do pretty badass weapons retention stuff. Where you hold a gun at him and then he'll have the gun and he'll point
Chris
it back.
Rock.
Right? Yes. Yep. But that is.
Chris Tucker. My bad.
Wow.
Botched that name too.
Wow.
No, he didn't botch that name.
He didn't botch the name.
I think you thought that Chris Rock was Chris Tucker.
Yeah, I think, and we don't know what that
or
means.
Chris Tucker was Chris Rock.
Yeah.
No.
Wow,
No.
Dre.
Wow.
Wow. You always mix up the Chris's.
Yeah.
You mix the Chris's all the time.
Hashtag cancel Dre.
Yeah, it's big
all
time.
Right? Okay.
I'm calling HR
So-
on you.
What kind of Phil Collins shit is that?
Dude. Anyway,
get the
dude,
F.
this is the world we live in. All right.
Yeah.
And these are the hands we're given. All right.
This is true.
Yeah. Wow. So. Yeah. So anyway, if people are interested in learning some, what I would consider probably the best, most logical and most reasonable way of defending like knife and gun, then I would say you should check out Burton Richardson's stuff.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of videos, some stuff on BJJ Fanatics, but also just stuff on his website. I think he just has like normal knife defense stuff. That stuff, in my opinion, is the best. And if you really want to get good at it, you got to do more than just watch those videos. I would say go and train with him or one of his guys. But outside of that, I'm not a huge fan of weapons retention, and I think you got to spend a lot of time to be decent at that.
Yeah.
So anyway,
You gotta
what
be
else?
fast.
What else you got for me?
We got Chris Dyane. I
Awesome.
don't think he has a question.
Hey, did you know
per se.
that you
What?
can't hurry love?
You should never
No.
try.
All right.
Keep that at
That
the
is
natural
tenuous
pace.
at best. That
Ease my mind.
That was a
all right?
cover.
Huh?
That is tenuous at best.
It was a cover,
What
but he
is a
still
cover?
sang it. So when you hear me say, "You can't hurry love," you hear it in his voice, not in the original
You're
one.
not going to make me. No,
It's
no.
too late.
See, no, I can hear it in a lovely.
It's
lovely-
too late. Oh, by the way, a couple things I want to talk about.
What's this?
One, I have an Instagram subscription now. I have KFG
Oh.
OnlyFans on Instagram. All right.
Dang.
Yeah. So for the exorbitant cost of $5 a month, I do on Instagram. I do one video a week. Sometimes I actually do a little bit more. Sometimes two, but it's one video a week, and they're reels, so they're not longer than 90 seconds. So I don't want anyone to get a subscription there thinking they have hours and hours and hours of content. No. Every week I do one video. I do like a little tip, like how to do scissors gansa on the dummy, how to do kwanzaa, or sometimes I'll answer questions from subscribers like how come the dummy is shaped a certain way if we have to do techniques like this. So there'll be all these like little tidbits that I have once a week, and so it's not something robust like an online academy. And
I can see the questions going so through the roof that you have to step it up to like 3 videos a week. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but not for $5 a month.
Okay.
One video a week is good, and every once in a while I'll throw an extra one in there. They have other subscription offers, so like maybe if people want something a little bit more robust on Instagram, I might offer something at like a higher tier. But I do have that. So if you guys follow at the Kung Fu Genius on Instagram and you want to get these weekly Kung Fu tips, it's like $5 a month or whatever. And Patreon supporters, if you support us on Patreon, you get, in addition to getting episodes early, I throw like other stuff on there too. But our Patreon support starts at $5.
Right.
So what I did for my Patreon supporters is all the Instagram subscription stuff. I also post it on Patreon so that our Patreons don't feel like, if they support us on Patreon and then, this for an extra $5, I got to go to Instagram to get some other stuff. So if
you're trying
you
to milk me, KFG.
Exactly. That's not my style. No. So if people just want to support me on Instagram, we have the cool Kung Fu Genius tips one a week for $5. And if you support us on Patreon, you get all the Patreon stuff. And you get the Instagram subscription stuff too.
Cool.
And by the way, City Wing Chun students also get the IG subscriber stuff. We wouldn't make our own students go, you're learning here once a month. By the way, also give me $5 on Instagram to get a 90-second tip once a week. So we include that for our City Wing Chun students as well. So anyway, that's just a couple things. And I have another announcement.
What's this?
This is a big one, Dre.
This is a big one. Should I have a...
How big?
It's so huge. I don't have a Phil Collins song to introduce it by.
Oh, man.
All right.
What?
The long-awaited and long-discussed 2023 Hong Kong trip.
What?
That's what's up. So Hong Kong has now lifted travel restrictions.
They have lifted the travel restrictions.
And knowing my luck, the moment I say this next week, they're going to be back, right?
You
know how it is, all right? Or they're going to say specifically Americans cannot go to Hong Kong or whatever, right?
New Yorkers. No New Yorkers.
No New Yorkers.
Like new bastards.
So, in pre-pandemic times, we generally went to Hong Kong once a year, and I would basically lead a bunch of my students on if
Awesome
I do say
tour.
so myself, a pretty kick-ass
Yeah.
tour of Hong Kong.
Yeah.
All right, I can show people that stuff that even the locals cannot show you, right? And Kung Fu, Wing Chun, Bruce Lee, movie stuff, on top of like the normal touristy things you want to do in Hong Kong.
Is that 46
So-
Cumberland Road?
41.
41. I
Jeez,
always
you
get the
always
name.
get it. Yeah, always
the
get the name
numbers.
wrong.
Get
all right?
name and
Yes.
numbers.
And
Fucking
Bruce
them up.
Lee's mansion is not there anymore. There's a new one in its place, right?
Come on, man.
So
Come
we
on.
should all
Yamatai.
We should. It's not Yamate. It's Kowloon
Yamate.
Tong. All right, Yamate.
Yamate.
All right?
Yamate.
Yeah. Okay. So what we should crowdfund with Patreon or something to. Or one of those like GoFundMes, where we should have all
the
the
mansion
KFG fans to buy the 41 Cumberland Road mansion and
put
just
it
turn it
back.
into like a KFG party house and Bruce Lee museum. Right?
Ooh.
Like we should all just collect all these funds, like from
not?
KFG and Kung Fu fans everywhere.
Why not?
And then we're all like kind of owners of the house, and then we'll have like a Bruce Lee museum on the bottom floor to earn some money, and then like people can just stay on the top floors.
Lit.
I can go run
We,
it.
Yeah.
I'll go run it. I've got the accent. It'll be
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, it'd be perfect.
and we put
all
a
right?
Marcy machine up in that.
And we'll put a Marcy machine in there.
Word.
All right. So anyway, yeah, wouldn't that be a dope idea, right?
would
don't know
love
how many
that.
millions of dollars US that thing is going to cost.
I mean,
so anyway,
get Judy to
so
run it.
we are going to we're going to go to Hong Kong
Uh-huh.
in August of 2023. So the actual tour. So I'm going to be opening a tour for KFG podcast fans
Mm-hmm.
and listeners to basically come and spend 7 days with me in Hong Kong. And I will have all of this on the website soon. So the great thing is it's really early now. I mean, we're recording this in October.
Yeah.
So this gives a lot of people, I should say, gives people a lot of time to plan and save up if they need to for the trip. So I'm going to have a tour package available for KFG fans to come and basically spend 7 days with me, and we're going to have 3 options. One, like the platinum option is you get like the 7-day tour. So like every day we're going to be doing stuff, like whether it's going to go to Yip Man's grave or do Bruce Lee stuff or Wing Chun stuff or Kung Fu movie stuff. So we have like, and also touristy stuff too. So I give like a very well-balanced tour of Hong Kong. It's not just obscure Wing Chun shit. It's, people
Man.
want to go to the take the ferry and go to the pier and do all those things. Like I'll take them for all that stuff as well. See the Bruce Lee statue at the, Avenue of the Stars and stuff. We'll do all the normal touristy stuff.
Right.
But we'll also do, as you know, Kung Fu Genius, off the beaten path, Kung Fu Hong Kong stuff, right? And so we'll have this 7-day tour. So we have the tour. In addition, on the platinum package, we have the tour. And then we also have training. I'm going to do a 3-hour Wing Chun seminar on one of the days. And then most likely, I will discuss it with Sifu Mak Chi Kong. We'll do like another seminar with Sifu Mak Sifu, where he can introduce the students to the difference
Yes.
between the various Southern styles, which is fascinating. So we'll have like a 3-hour Wing Chun seminar with me, 2-hour Wing Chun seminar with Mak Sifu. We have the daily 7-day stuff, like doing all these things. Go to Kung Fu Corner, Kowloon Park. We'll do all this kind of stuff, right? And then there's also an option like for the morning hangout, because every morning I like to do my workout and then have my breakfast. So
Morning hangout.
there's an option if people want to do it. They can also get like the hangout. The one thing about it's not about you get to hang out with the Kung Fu Genius.
Yeah.
No, you get to work out with the Kung
Yeah.
Fu Genius in the morning. All right, so it's not just like you get the luxury of listening to me talk. You can listen to me talk for free on the podcast.
Right,
it's
right.
actually get trained with me in the morning.
Yeah.
We're going to go to Kowloon Park and
Get your ass
follow
up.
follow my routine and stuff like that, right? And then have breakfast, and then the tour starts. So we have that, and then I think on that platinum package you can also maybe get one private lesson with me, but I can't promise more than that because I'm going to be so busy. And then like the gold package, like the middle one, is basically all the same stuff but no private lesson. That's the one most people should take. And then the lowest one is the tour only, because some podcast fans
Yeah.
might not actually practice Wing Chun or might not want to do the martial arts training, or maybe if they come from another lineage, maybe they don't want to train with me, which is fine.
They
Doesn't
just
bother
listen
me at
for the
all.
hip hop.
Exactly. They just want to come and see like the Kung Fu stuff or whatever. Then we have a tour package, which is basically just the tour. And although I have lots of stuff kind of planned, obviously if people who are coming on the tour, let's say someone is from the Wong Sun Leung lineage and they want to do training with some Wong Sun Leung guys, but because of language barriers, they can't do it. I have a team that can help facilitate that stuff for them, and we're not going to be like secretaries, but we can actually help people if they have their own thing they want to do while they're in Hong Kong outside of the tour. I can help to kind of like arrange some basic stuff like that.
You know what was cool?
What?
When you took us to the mall.
Which mall?
Jackie Chan did that.
The Police Story 1 mall. Yeah.
Oh, that was sick.
I usually do that kind of as a surprise.
Yeah.
I'll when we're in that section of Tiem Sa Choi, I'll be like, hey guys, I want to go into this mall here.
Yeah.
And Hong Kong has so many new modern malls. That mall is actually kind of old and
That's
small.
like a gem. They should never get rid of that.
And then I'll bring the students in there, and they'll go in, and they're like, why are we in this crusty old mall?
Yeah.
And then we walk in the center, and I tell them to look up, and I go, do you know where we are? And they'll go,
Oh,
Police Story. It's the end of Police Story. I go, this is, and then I like to go all the way to the top, and then look down and be like, that Jackie Chan jumped down. He
did that,
right?
yeah.
So we'll do all those kind of things, right? So either at the time of this episode coming out or by next week's episode, we'll have the link in the description, and then there will also be a way to purchase the tour on my CityWT website. Now, mind you, the tour is just going to the package that I have is just the tour with me. Airfare and hotel, that's on you guys, because we have people flying from everywhere. So I'm not gonna. How am I gonna coordinate someone flying from Germany or someone flying from America? Right.
Your brain will ooze out your ears.
Well, also the thing it's not necessary because nowadays with the internet, people can book their own flight, and it's early enough. We're going in late August.
Okay.
So the tour is actually going to be from August 21st to August 28th. All right. So it's 1 week. All right. I'm going to be in Hong Kong longer than that, but that's the 7-day tour. And we're going to be central in Jordan. All right. So we're going to be like in the Jordan area, which is where we stayed last time. So when people book hotels, they should book it in the Jordan area. All that information is going to be on the website. So I actually have written a very extensive PDF. So for people who want to do the trip, you would go to the online shop and click the PDF. And the PDF explains exactly what's on the tour, exactly what to expect, where you should look for hotels and suggestions like on Airbnbs and things like that. But I also have lots of details in there. Like we're going to Hong Kong in August. It's hot, all right? And a big portion of like the people who are going to want to come are from Europe. And Europeans don't like air conditioning for some reason. They think air conditioning is going to give you cancer, and every European that goes into a well air-conditioned building goes, oh my God, my back hurts and I'm dying of cirrhosis of the liver. And they're like, why is that? Oh, it's the air conditioning,
Is that true, Mikey?
Yeah, Mikey's European. Yeah, they have this like thing about air conditioning like killing you, right? And so
like microwaves coming out.
I put in that PDF, all right? If you're not able to handle 90 plus degree
humidity,
heat, and crazy, insane cold AC, do not come on this trip. Just don't. I'm not going to, because what I want everyone who's coming to absolutely know what to expect. That's why I wrote this really extensive PDF. So if you're interested in coming on the Hong Kong trip, read that PDF. It's got everything in there about the training, about what to expect, what to do, all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. And it's going to be a really awesome tour. So we'll have these kind of 3 packages available for people to come. Hotels and obviously food and flights and stuff is all on you guys.
I have someone interested in that trip at my job. Guy that works with me. He's into
Why not?
KFG. He does parkour. This guy's a
Hong Kong's a
movement
great place
maniac.
to do parkour.
Yeah.
Man. So anyway, we'll have all that stuff available. So those were my 2 announcements. So anyway, what else you got for me, Dre? Hey, Kung Fu Genius listeners. Are you a fan of Wing Chun Kung Fu? Well, if you listen to me, I assume you are. I got great news for KFG fans. Right now, you can get an all-access 1-month free trial subscription to Wing Chun Illustrated magazine. Yes, I said free. Go to WCINewsstand.com and register in the upper right-hand corner. Fill out your email and password and use the code KFG trial to get your free trial to all the issues from 2011 to the current issue. That's right, all the issues. Even the one with this cool guy on the cover. That's me for those of you listening to us on audio. My Kung Fu Genius column is also in all the new issues, as if you needed another reason to get this awesome magazine. Go get your free trial subscription today. For all that information, check out the description below. And now back to me.
Okay, we got a more like a comment, not a question, but Chris Dyane.
Okay.
One of Mikey Deane's favorites.
Susu Studio.
Yeah. My man, he says, hi, Seafood Alex. I remember my dad coming home with ETD on VHS, and that scene where Bruce and the Abbott are walking alone was on that tape, and I've never seen a copy without it either. Loving the podcast. Keep up the great work. You're in my top 5 shows I watch on YouTube.
Awesome. And he
Okay.
only watches 5 shows.
P.S. He only watches 5 shows.
Yeah. He watches 3 shows, and we're the top 5. We're number 5.
P.S. Love the bloopers of Dre cleaning all that coffee. He looks like he needed some bounty. One sheet does plenty.
That's what's up.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
What a classic episode.
Yeah, great comment. Well, if he's
Yeah.
only seen the version of ETD with Bruce Lee talking to the Abbot, then he's only watched versions of Enter the Dragon that have come out since the 90s. Because I can tell you with 100% certainty that before they re-released it in the 90s, that scene did not exist.
Did not exist.
Did not exist. The first time I saw that scene where he's walking with the Abbot at Qingshan Monastery, shout out to Qingshan Monastery.
Yeah, Qingshan.
It's one of the spots on the KFG Hong Kong tour.
Ooh, it's on the tour.
Yeah. The first time I saw that scene was I was in Seattle. It was in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And they had just come out with that new updated version of Enter
Blew
the
your
Dragon,
mind.
right? And they actually showed it in a movie theater. So I had already seen Enter the Dragon multiple times at that point in my life. And it was great. Man, Seattle in the 90s was kind of a cool place. I went there with my buddies. They had I think the place was called Cinerama. And they had for $5, they had a midnight showing for $5. And for that $5, you also got popcorn or soda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then so we went to a secondhand thrift store and bought a bunch of 70s style clothing. All of my buddies
Okay.
went there. We had bell bottoms, boots,
Yeah.
a butterfly collar.
Yeah.
And we got these slick 70s leather jackets, and we spent $15
Yeah.
on the whole getup, right?
Oh, I love it.
And we went to a midnight showing of Enter the Dragon. And I was excited because I had never seen it on the big screen before. I'd only seen it on the TV on VHS. And I sat there, and then that scene with the Abbot came, and I was like, what? And that was in the re-release. But before that didn't exist. I mean, you can find any old VHS tape from before that time, and you'll see it wasn't on there.
I guess it all depends on how old he is, because VHS and DVD in England at least was still kind of a thing in the 90s.
Right.
I mean, I had, no, I'm going to say it because I don't care. I had all 7 seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer on VHS, and then I had to.
All
I had
7
to-
seasons.
Yeah, absolutely, it's freaking awesome. And then I had to replace it all with DVD, right?
Right.
And that show started in '97. So,
Wow.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, you
it's-
guys were a little behind on the ball there.
Yeah, but we had
Yeah.
text messaging before you guys. So
That
it's
is
cool.
true, though. That is true. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird, the Euro versus American technology stuff,
Yeah.
because when it comes to visual media, Europe was so far behind the U.S. But they were on to text messaging before us because talking on the phone is so effing expensive in Europe. So it was that was a way to get around it. And I remember I moved to Germany in 1999, and then I got this cheap cell phone.
Yeah.
And I gave my phone number to a couple of my German buddies, and then my buddy Nico, I'll never forget it. He's a Wing Chun guy from Hamburg.
Yeah.
Sent me a text message, and it was the first time I got a text message, and I was like, "What the hell is this?
What is this?
I'm like,
You read it huh?
I read it, and I'm like, he sent me words on my phone. All right, so the first time I had ever seen a text message was in Germany in 1999.
That is
and then
wild.
I figured out how to write them back, and I'm like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
You don't have to talk to a motherfucker.
The thing is that my first time I came to New York was in 2002, and I was hanging out with some friends here, and I was like, oh yeah, I got to meet someone. I didn't have a phone. I was like, oh, just send them a text message, and they were like,
What's that?
what's that?
Yeah,
I was
uh-huh.
like, it's a text message, you know what I mean? And then they were like, oh yeah, so when they call you, don't stay on the phone for too long because it costs money. I'm like, you talking about? They're calling you. It should cost them money. They're
Right.
like, no, it costs money. It's the minutes. I was like, oh, no. In Europe, if you call someone, it costs you money.
Right.
Uh-huh.
The other way round,
Yeah.
if they call me, it doesn't cost me any money.
Look at these freaking arrogant Europeans that always expect it to
Yeah.
be the same way it is over there, right?
What, the better way?
Yeah.
The better
You know how many
way.
times I brought Germans to, the Germans have come here to New York, and then
Yeah.
we go to a restaurant, and then, they just get bent out of shape that sparkling water isn't a normal offer. Like, you have tap water and you have to pay extra for it. What? I want the water with gas, please. And they ask for water with gas. And then you can just see the American waiter going,
with gas.
So, with gas, please.
Fart in your bottle?
Exactly, right?
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, it's so funny. All right. Yeah.
Wow.
All right, what else you got?
All right, let's get into another, I would say...
Hypothetical? No.
I think this might be like a comment as well. I like comments here and there because it rattles you. Crichton Freeman.
All right.
I like that name too. Nunchaku were indeed rice flails to beat that ass. I mean, to beat the grain out of its coat or husk, so it can be separated by throwing it into the air for the wind to blow away the lighter husk or chaff. Oh, awesome. Often, one of the flail sticks is longer than the other, so you don't have to bend over so much, though. I saw this being done along the roadside in Anhui Province, China, not too many years ago.
Awesome.
Okay, so there is the history of rice flails.
Beat that ass with a rice flail.
Don't make me beat that ass.
Yeah.
Don't
Can you imagine all the people who've been beaten up by nunchaku and you're like, yo, you got beaten by a rice flail.
Yeah.
All
That's probably in the thousands.
Yes, the thousands.
Yeah.
And how many people have gone to the hospital because they concussed themselves with nunchaku?
With themselves, yeah.
All right.
All right. Next up, we got the nomadic cat.
Nomadic cat.
Nomadic cat.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Hello, KFG, Dre, and Mikey. You guys make the best, most entertaining MA podcast out there. MA means martial arts, by the way.
Thanks for that.
Way back in the... I saw confusion on his face. I needed to help you out. You're like... MMA. Way back... Huh?
I don't know. This is a Phil Collins sounding motherfucker over there talking.
What is he saying?
I have no idea, man.
Dude,
Right.
he loves Phil Collins so much.
Yeah.
Everything he lives and breathes.
I know.
So he
but
can't
he's
help
basically
slurring
the
Phil
genesis
Collins.
of all of our problems.
I know.
All right, let's go.
He is the genesis. The KFG told... Okay, way back in the first NYC Stories episode, the KFG told the story of a 7-foot nervous fellow who took an intro class and never came back. Sifu Alex hinted that he resurfaces years later. Can we please hear that story? Apologies if you have told it and I missed it. Thanks.
Yeah, that's an interesting story.
Yeah.
That story, however, does not highlight my proudest moment as a martial arts instructor.
Well, this is good to tell then.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, we are hopefully, we live here on this earth and we are hopefully trying to better ourselves and imagine our life as like a project, right? Where we are not the same person we were yesterday. We're not the same person we were 10 years ago, right? And so sometimes I look at my past behavior, especially when I was in the IWTA. Now, that's not to blame the IWTA for my behavior, all right? Because I'm responsible for my own behavior, right? Certainly my attitudes towards other martial artists and other Wing Chun people at that time was heavily influenced by the people I was surrounded by at that time.
It's never the same. It's such a shame. That's all.
Yes, that's all.
That's all.
Yeah. So, hey, I can say day and you say night.
I can say wrong and you say right.
Tell me it's black when I know that it's white.
You know it is white.
Yeah, it's
But
always
I'm going
the
to tell
same.
you it's black.
It's just a shame.
It's just a shame.
That's all. All right. So, anyway, this story does not highlight the best of Sifu Alex Richter's behavior or character.
Okay.
Right? It's basically me, I would say, at one of the most entrenched points of being part of Sifu Larringtang's organization. And again, I'm not trying to blame Sifu Larringtang or blame his organization, but it is what it is. I was really trying very hard
You were
to emulate.
influenced by the empire.
I was trying really hard to emulate what I thought other people wanted to see me as, right? So the story goes, and it kind of harkens back to our first New York stories.
Yeah.
When I started teaching Wing Chun, I didn't know what to expect here in New York. You know, is it going to be people trying to challenge me all the time? Is it going to be a bunch of weird, foofy artists? Like, what is it going to be, right?
Right.
And very early on, somebody visited my school for an intro lesson. And this guy, as I mentioned, I may have mentioned in that podcast, he wrote these huge, like what would be multiple pages on a Word document emails, right?
Right.
And it was like him asking all these questions about, like, the Wing Chun that I teach. And do I teach self-defense against weapons? And do I teach this? And do I teach that? Do I teach multiple attackers? It's all the stuff that people who have no idea about martial arts ask. Now, it's not to say that that's wrong. Everyone started with no idea of martial arts. It's just weird when, like, an adult is super concerned with, do you teach knife defense? Do you teach gun defense? Do you teach multiple attacker defense? Like, because the actual honest answer is no, because all of that stuff is bullshit. Yeah. All right, multiple attacker defense? Yeah. All right, I'll take 3 of my least talented students, and you come and learn any of your multiple attacker things, they're just going to swarm you. You're going to be on the ground. They're not going to attack you one by one, right? But how do you convey this professionally in an email? And I just started out. So I made a very newbie mistake, which is that I would spend all the time in the world to answer this guy's emails, right? Because, I was new and I was very enthusiastic. So he would write like a page of an email.
And you would respond with a page.
Yeah, I would respond with like this well thought out, emails and stuff, right? And, but of course, if you know anything about business, you know that that's the worst thing to do.
Man.
All right. The best thing to do is, hey, man, those are really fantastic questions. When you come in for your intro lesson, I will be more than happy to actually show you how we handle these situations one-on-one so that you can really see it. All right? What time would you like to come for your intro lesson? 7:15 or 8:15 on Monday?
But you weren't doing that.
But I didn't know any of that stuff. I didn't know shit about business. I'm like, right? And then you know what happens after you give someone a page-long email response? He writes another page with a bunch of other questions, right? So this was a learning experience for me, right? Definitely not an earning experience, a learning experience, right? And then back and forth. And then finally I had gotten the guy to come in for an intro lesson. And based on the tone of his emails, I expected this guy to be the proverbial 90-pound weakling. And homeboy walks in and he's nearly 7 feet tall. Yeah. And he's not a lanky 7 foot. He's not a football player build. Yeah. But he's not what you would call a small guy. Okay. All right. If I had a body like his, all right, my Wing Chun wouldn't even need to be half as good as it is, just based on attributes. And if I had a body like his, I may be in jail, all right, for murder, all right? Okay, just because he's got a Hulk smash body, right? Okay. And so I saw this guy.
Not a She-Hulk smash, but Hulk.
Yes, either way. Yeah. And when he walked in, it was just like Bruce Lee when he saw Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in Game of Death. It's just like he just cranes his neck up like this. And I'm like, this is the guy who's been writing me all these but what if you have multiple attackers with weapons? And the dude lived in super gentrified Hoboken, New Jersey. Yes. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, you're not getting attacked by multiple attackers with weapons who all know jujitsu and are ninjas, okay?
You'd be lucky if you got attacked with like a woman with a dog or something.
Exactly, right? Step in dog shit. It would be the biggest threat to your daily existence, right? So anyway, he came in and, when I did the intro lesson with him, just kind of very basic day one stuff in Wing Chun, learn like how to do some chain punches, learn how to step forward, close the gap, and then kind of showed him how, we train on the chest very lightly so that we can actually make contact at a realistic distance. And I remember just going up to him and just placing my hand on his chest, and he was like he was like the cowardly lion from the Wizard of Oz. I would put my hands on him to guide his arms in the different movements, and he was like, oh wow. In hindsight, I should have realized this guy probably has some trauma. Yeah. Okay, but I was so green, and I had just come from training at the castle for 3 years, where everyone I was training with was like really highly motivated. These are all Wing Chun people, all the top guys in Europe. Seeing
some of them were as big as him too.
Yeah, seeing Sifu Kanchbeck and Sifu Lernteng and all these bangers and Sifu Heinrich and Sifu Bant and all these guys regularly being surrounded by martial artists and serious Wing Chun people. And here I am with this 7-foot giant who I would just like, at that point in my life, not now, but I would have given my left nut to be that guy's size. Like, oh my God, this would solve so many of my martial art problems if I had your size. Right now, I wouldn't trade my life or my size for that guy for the world. But that's the way I looked at it back then. Yeah. And I'm trying to like correct him and give him something. He's like worse than the Cowardly Lion. Man. And I had no idea because I was so green as a martial arts instructor. This guy probably had some kind of trauma in his life. Or maybe just by virtue of being really big, no one ever picked on him, and he knows he can't fight, and he's afraid, right? So there's a lot of things I didn't even take into consideration, but I was like, I have to admit, in those early days of my teaching, it was a little bit Cobra Kai style. I kind of thought, and this is not how I would think now, but this is definitely how I thought then. I thought, what a pussy. What the fuck is this guy's problem? You know what I mean? Here I am, I'm like this 5'7", you know, a $130 weighing nothing. And it's like, you know, if you have to fight, you have to fight. And if you lose, you lose. If you win, you win. But I mean, at least stand up and be a freaking man. Like, what is this?
Yeah, that was your approach to teaching.
Yeah, that like, I was like, but I didn't say that to him, but I was just very off-put. And then I showed him some stuff. And like, I was able to move him around a little bit. And he was like seemingly very impressed. And then he left and he never came back. All right. And I always thought, and my lesson from that, which just shows you where my mindset was back then, is, man, don't waste time on these dudes. When someone writes all this stuff, don't waste time on them. So instead of me actually figuring out a better way to do sales emails, I was just like, someone writes an email like this to you, that's a red flag. All right. Okay. And that's not necessarily the case, but that was my takeaway. I mean, I was 23, 24 years old, and I was like, what is this? You know what I mean? I'm like, well, I'm not going to waste my time with these people because I need to build my school. I want to get people in my school who are like serious. And you know, someone writing, you know, an essay per email is guaranteed to waste my time because I assumed that they would all be like him, which is not the case. I just didn't know how to handle it. And also I felt a little rejected because I was so green. Like, why didn't this guy join? Yeah. He's scared. I'm showing him how to defend himself. But he still doesn't join. Yeah. Meanwhile, I didn't realize I probably just made him feel uncomfortable. He probably thought I was too aggro and too much like this or whatever, and I didn't make him, like, these are all things that we'd never do nowadays. You know, when someone walks in for an intro lesson, you got to kind of take the temperature of the room, right? If the person is easygoing and calm, you don't want to be like, oh, like this. And, you know, if the person has very high energy, you want to match their energy, right? These are things that, you know, you learn after 20 years of teaching, right? But back then I was like, get out of here, right? So it wasn't kind of my best moment. And then that guy, you know, left, and then, you know, I never saw him again for a few years, I should say. And then flash forward, I would say, so I started teaching in 2002, so I would assume, so I saw that 7-foot guy somewhere at the end of 2002, maybe beginning 2000. No, it was 2002, I remember, because I had guests from Germany at that time. And it was around the time of my wedding. So yeah, it would have been around September 2002. All right.
Same year.
Yeah. So just a couple months after I started teaching. Then flash forward a few more years. This has to at least be 2007 because it was Mikey on. Oh, right. And Mikey on already had his black shirt. And I believe he got his black shirt around 2007, around the time we went to Hungary. So this now has to be 2007 or 2008. All right. Because he was not yet a technician. He was a black shirt, right? So this is now, we're talking like
I was definitely not a black shirt.
This is 5 or 6 years later.
Gotcha.
All right. And then we get a request for an intro lesson. And this guy comes in. And it's the scaredy cat from 7 years prior. Oh, wow. And I remember, it's kind of flashback on all those questions he was asking me, right? He was like, how long is it going to take to learn the Wing Chun system? Which is such a ridiculous question because it's like, well, you can learn the forms and the Chi Sao stuff, but do you consider that learning the Wing Chun system, or do you consider it like if you actually have the skill? Man. Like, because here in New York, there was a school, it's not in existence anymore, but his whole thing was what he could teach you the Wing Chun system in 6 months. Okay? But what does that mean? You take someone who doesn't know anything and you force feed the Seonam Tao Chamkyu Byuji and Wooden Dummy and the weapons in 6 months down their throat.
Ouch.
And if you had a relatively talented student that could somehow learn the choreography of these forms and learn those drills in there, what would the result be of that person after 6 months? Just someone who someone who could just repeat forms and drills. But you wouldn't have someone who actually understood Wing Chun or had a deep, nuanced understanding of how to use this thing or adapt it in different situations, right? But that was his main thing is that teacher would say, oh, everyone else is dragging you out, making you wait for longer. And it's like, but the joke was at those days, when I would get students from that school, it was so difficult because those guys were used to learning stuff like Seonam Tao this week, and then next week, it was like they were just learning Wing Chun curriculum like it was passing out Skittles. And every single one of them who came in here, we do our intro lesson. What do we do in our intro lesson? We do straight punch defense, right? Yeah. And we go, okay, so you've done some Wing Chun before, so we go like this. And like these guys are trying to do all this complicated stuff, trying to catch arms with bong sao. And you go, no, you can't do that. And then we would show these guys, they couldn't even defend a punch. Oh, you learned the wooden dummy? Cool story, bro. Yeah. You can't defend a straight punch. Oh. And so half of those guys would be like, oh, wow. And then they would join. Many of my students, in fact, even some of my assistant instructors originally came from that school. Because once they came here and they learned like, yeah, I can do all this stuff on the wooden dummy, but yeah, if I can't defend a punch, what the hell is the point, right? And then when they did Chi Sao, it was even worse for them because they learned Chi Sao super quick without any kind of concept, right? And then the other half of them would just double down and get pissed off and would leave. Man. Because I was trying to embarrass them or, that's just my way of trying to string people along or whatever. But in the learning system, we always cared about, well, what can you do? I don't care how many forms you know. If I kick you in the stomach, then who cares if you know wooden dummy? You can't defend a kick to the stomach. Who cares? Ouch. All right, go ahead and hit the wooden dummy, and then when you're done, I'm going to kick you in the stomach. Okay. All right, what's the point, right? So this guy didn't join my school back in 2002, and then he joined that school, which hands out Wing Chun curriculum like Skittles. And that was one of the many talking points that he had in that long ass email. And so I kind of in hindsight, when I did like the autopsy of that interaction, that first interaction, I was like, okay, well, he was probably a little off-put by how aggressive the training was, even though I always taught in a very friendly training. You have to have a friendly training environment if you're going to do an aggressive martial art. Okay. Because if you teach an aggressive martial art like Wing Chun and the environment is super, super aggro, I mean, you're not going to have any women, you're not going to have any men who lack confidence. You're only going to have you're going to have a gym full of aggro dudes. Meatheads, right? You don't want that.
A bunch of Dre's.
Exactly, a bunch of Dre's, right?
A bunch of Dre's.
So in kind of like the post-mortem of that interaction, I was like, okay, he was probably off-put by how aggressive it was. It was probably a little too aggressive with him. And he was also probably off-put by me saying, well, you know, in learning Wing Chun, we really require a solid mastery of Seonam Tao in Chamkyu and Chamkyu in application. So it's not just that you can pantomime those two forms and then we golf clap and go, oh, you're ready for Byuji now because you can pantomime movements in the air. We go, okay, you've learned Seonam Tao and Chamkyu. All right, do you have the Chi Sao skill requisite for those levels? If I fire punches at you or try to tackle you or throw a kick at you, can you defend yourself using the material in those forms? The application, literally the whole fucking point, all right? Not the pantomiming of those forms. And this is what irks me about Wing Chun people. They think that learning the Byuji equals having Byuji skill, or learning the wooden dummy equals having wooden dummy. No, homie. Oh, man. You have that skill when you can do it and use it, all right? We all know that in Wing Chun, sometimes we are, like, students are at wooden dummy level. They're learning the wooden dummy. They're learning the wooden dummy Chi Sao, but they know that they cannot quite use it yet. So you might be learning the wooden dummy, but you're actually confident in your Byuji stuff, which you learned prior because you have more practice with that, and less confident in this thing you're learning now. But so many Wing Chun people think that if they just touch the wooden dummy for 10 minutes, they are at wooden dummy level. It's like, no, homie, you got to be able to do that. Okay. Do you know how to use section 1 of the wooden dummy? Do you know why it's arranged the way it is? Do you know the different variations of the neck pull? Why we even have tan sao tai cheng? Why do we stick on one side and not on the other? No, because you just pantomime a bunch of bullshit on a piece of wood. And that does not mean you know anything about how to use it, all right? So when this guy came back, I realized, and he had been training at that other school, I realized I think I know what the main point was. He just wanted to learn Wing Chun really fast. And he knew that at my school, he would actually have to earn everything that he learned. Damn. Whereas at that school, it's just handed out like Skittles. Damn. All right? So he came for an intro lesson now 7 years later. And at that time, I was no longer teaching the intros myself. You know, I had Mikey on, I had other people teaching for me, right? Teaching the intros and stuff. So he came in, and then I saw this guy, and then I was like, oh, Jesus, this guy. Because he's like 7 feet tall. Like, I would not forget him, right?
Yeah.
And then I told Mike Yan about this guy. I'm like, look, this is what happened there. And I go, and look, what did he do? And at that time, I was still a punk, all right? I was still like, you know, very much influenced by the culture of the IWTA. Like, you know, fuck these other Wing Chun guys if they don't want to like train hard and they just think it's about collecting techniques. You know, what are you going to do? You cannot fix stupid, all right? Yeah. Like, and so he comes in. I've heard that one before. He comes in. I mean, it's not my attitude now. That was my attitude then. And he comes in and he says he's trained at the other school. And he said it kind of arrogantly, like, yeah, I did an intro lesson and then I went and did this other school and now I'm an instructor level over there.
Oh.
So I was like, oh.
But he came for an intro here.
He came for an intro. So you know, so I had Mike Yan ask him all the normal. So why are you here? Well, I want to get a different look on my Wing Chun, and I've been doing that Wing Chun for a few years, and I'm really confused about the application, which is super funny because it's like, that's literally the whole point. And the gag is, and I bet you if we dig deep enough, you're probably confused on the forms too. And you're probably confused on the cheese out, and you're probably confused on the footwork, and you're probably confused as to how it works. But okay, we'll give you that you're just a little because he came in like, you know, I don't really need to learn from the beginning because I'm already an instructor, which is already an attitude that I hate. Because I've been teaching Wing Chun for 20 years and doing it for much longer. And if I go to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor, I go, I'm a beginner. Yeah. Take me as a beginner. All right? Or if I want to learn something from another master in Hong Kong, I'm not a Wing Chun Sifu. I'm a nobody as far as, because you always have to have this attitude as a beginner. And I'll come in like, well, actually, I'm already an instructor, so you need to teach me accordingly. Bullshit. I'm the instructor. I'll teach you according to what you need. You don't tell me coming in thinking that you are at some level that you're not. All right? Because you don't know what level you are in my school. And second, if you're coming to me to learn something, that means you have something to learn. So you need to come as a student, and you need to can this you're an instructor bullshit. All right? Because that's my attitude, all right? If I go to Miami and I go to a boxing gym, all right? I don't go, well, actually, you know, I'm the Kung Fu genius and I'm a Wing Chun master. Can you imagine? No, be like, all right.
They'll put you through the ringer.
Yeah, I wanna, you know, show me how you do boxing. Show me how you hit mitts. Show me how you spar. I usually don't tell those people anything. For years, I trained at a Thai boxing school in Hong Kong every time I went there, and I never mentioned anything about what I did. All right? Because I just want to train like a normal person and learn. And I'm not there representing anything. I'm there learning. All right? So I expect that when people come to my school. I don't care what you did before. It's great. And I respect you for having done martial arts. But when you're on the training floor, you are not an instructor from another Wing Chun school if you're here to learn something. All right? If you're not, then that means I invited you to teach, which I certainly didn't. Okay. All right? So, hey. Take it easy. All right?
Slow down, Tito.
So anyway, you know, Mike Yan asked him, why are you here? Well, I'm a little confused about the application, so I know you guys are good with the application. As if like somehow that's all we do. We're not good with the forms because we don't teach them so quickly, right?
This is application.
Which is actually funny because if someone teaches you forms very, very fast and then shows you the next one, that's usually a sign they actually don't know much about the forms because they have reduced it to choreography. If you reduce the Siunam Tao to choreography, if you reduce all the Wing Chun forms to choreography, well, I can also teach Wing Chun in 3 months. Yeah. If it's just the choreography and pantomiming and follow what I do,
probably sooner,
you can take an averagely talented or visual student and teach them that. And then you can roundhouse kick them in the head. All right? And they will be standing there like they're doing the wooden dummy form and they won't know anything about how to defend because these are two separate things. Forms are just part of the teaching system. They are not the Wing Chun. All right? So, you know, I told Mike, I said, look, this guy was a total waste of time 7 years ago. And I go in, look, all he wanted to do was learn Wing Chun fast. And that's what he got. And after he learned Wing Chun fast, he realized he doesn't know how to use it. And now he wants to come here to fix it. So I said, show him. Okay.
Oh no.
And I told it was very Cobra Kai. All right. My school was a little on the Cobra Kai side back then, right? It's very different now. City Wing Chun is such a calm, easy, cool place to come and train and chill and do your sparring and everything like that. But back then, I was so like, I was so kind of Church of Leung Ting, like, you know, like you are like your existence is an affront to my ego. You know what I mean?
Were you Johnny? Were you Kreese? Were you this other villain guy? Which one were you? If you had to look back and
that's
say,
a good, yeah. I want to say I was. No, I wasn't as put together as Terry Silver. It's certainly not as well funded.
Not as well
And it was not as
Terry.
pure a villain as Kreese.
Okay.
I think I was more of a Johnny.
More of a Johnny?
Because Johnny has the potential to get better, all right? Which is what makes Cobra Kai so great.
Yeah.
So, but you have to imagine, I was Johnny, but I was Johnny in Karate Kid 1 then.
Yeah.
I'm Johnny at the end of season 5 now.
Okay.
All right.
Got
Okay.
it,
He has
it.
some
He's grown
spoilers.
a
He's
lot.
grown. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm that Johnny now. Right. But I was
man.
Johnny in 1984 in 2007. Right. And so I just show him. I go. I told Mike. I go. Actually, I don't want this guy to join because he's just kind of a waste of time. So just send him back with his tail between his legs. All right. And it was not my finest moments. All right. And so Mike did an intro, same intro we do for everyone.
Yeah.
All right, he's a straight punch defense. The guy couldn't stop a straight punch. I mean, we didn't punch him in the face full power or anything. It's not like come in, all right, go ahead and join. You can't stop a straight
Just
punch.
show him the fist.
It was just kind of showing him like, no, this doesn't work. This doesn't. And you have to do it like this. You have to do it like this, right? And then like, you know, checking his basics. His stance was wrong. Mike swept him quick to the floor. Like, oh no, you can't stand that way.
Damn, dude.
And then Mike is dismantling all of his basics. Oh no, you can't. Like if you have your head this way, I'm going to pull you and sweep you off. If you have your legs this way, I'm going to do that. Okay, I can kick you in the groin. Oh look, boom, here you're open, right? And he's dismantling this guy on a technical, like just from a technical standpoint. And the guy's like, okay. Well, I'm an instructor. Can we do chi sao? And it was so infuriating because the balls or the idiocy of someone to walk into a school and on his basic techniques get totally dismantled. Like his chain punch, his hand was like this, and I think Mike just grabbed him and hit him in his own face with his punch. Like you cannot hold your hands
Three
like
Stooges?
here, like this. It's like you're collapsed, right?
Oh wow.
Weight was incorrectly distributed. Groin was open. All right, wasn't able to move out of the way when he got pressed. He would just fall backwards, right? No. And then he was like constantly being dismantled on what's basically the first 6 months stuff we teach here at City Wing Chun. And then the guy's like, oh, can we do chi sao? And it's like, dude, you can't even do basics. You want to talk about chi sao? And also, given that his basics were so easily dismantled, what did he think was going to happen in chi sao? All right.
He's an instructor.
And of course, and at that time, this was, you know, in the old 4th floor, we didn't have the moon gate at that time.
Okay.
I used these Asian dividers,
I remember
right? Do you
those.
remember like the shoji
Yes.
screens, right?
Yeah.
And this guy's head,
No.
he was so tall, his head was like above those screens, right? And Mike Yan, I could just see like the top of his hair, right? And Mike Yan just sends him into the wall with the first attack.
Oh no.
Packs out punch. Like just all like our first 2 basic attacks, and the guy couldn't stop them. And then he tried to do lap da to Mike, but in this normal way, and then lands out Daijang, game over, right? And then the guy like, you know, tried to do something, and Mike swept him on the ground and brought him up, and the guy's like, oh, okay, I'm done, all right. And then he goes, what level are you at? And what he means by what level are you at? So how many forms have you learned? And Mike Yan said, I've learned up to Chum Kyu.
Yeah.
Which was true. He had not yet learned Buji, but he knew how to do the stuff that he's supposed to do. And the guy was like, I'm at pole or knife or something like that. And Mike was like, cool. And then the guy left, and we never saw him again, right?
Oh yes.
And shortly after that, it came through the grapevine that I was a gangster. And I was a thug at that school. They were telling people like, "Oh, don't go to the Leung Ting school. Those guys are a bunch of thugs and gangsters." And then it seemed that that guy may have also been sent to my school because maybe they thought because of his stature we would have been afraid or something like that. But he was not the guy to send to our school. And I'm not proud of that because in hindsight, if I could go back, all right? I mean, I don't regret it. It happened. It was a teachable moment. You cannot live your life in regret for past mistakes. You made past mistakes. You got to move on. But like if I could go back in a time machine.
In a Dyson time machine.
All right? You have to put that
You can't,
in there, right?
you can't think of time machine without the Dyson time
I can,
machine.
but you won't let me. All right? So if I could go back to that first interaction,
Okay.
all right, I would have sat down and talked to the guy first, the way we do with all of our intro lessons, and be like, so tell me why you're here. All right? What is it that you're looking for? What kind of training do you want? Are there any things that you like about martial arts training, things you don't like about martial arts training? And also to have the courage to say, I forget what his name was, all of these things sound great, but I don't think my school is the one you're looking for. Because that's also another thing you have to do too. Kind of like my Hong Kong trip. I have this huge PDF.
Yeah.
Because I want people to know, look, this is what to expect. There's also what not to expect. And these are things you have to pay attention to. And if these are things that you don't like I also put a thing on there of people who have massive dietary restrictions. All right?
Why are you looking at me?
I'm just looking at you. All right?
Hey, I don't have those restrictions anymore.
Because
Thanks to Hong Kong.
Because in Hong Kong, I've had the problem, like we go to Hong Kong in a group, and there's one person that can't eat this, and this. And then if I'm going to have a tour with 15, 20 people, and I have 6 people that all have their special food allergies, and I have to relay this in Cantonese.
Oh, no.
First of all, they're not. Hong Kong is not really the place. If you have
don't
massive,
accommodate like that.
No,
No.
they don't really accommodate.
No.
So if you go there with like, I don't eat gluten but I don't eat brown gluten. Yellow gluten is okay, and then the oil had get out of here, man.
no.
Get out of here. All right, you can stay home.
I'm still coming. You can keep trying to get me not
They
to come.
can
I'm still
get out
coming.
of here along with anyone who doesn't like AC or think AC is giving you cirrhosis of the liver.
Yeah.
Just don't go
You're
on the
gonna have
trip,
to
right?
lift those
So
food restrictions.
You have to have the courage sometimes as a martial arts school owner to be like, I don't think my school is the right place for you.
It's not the right fit.
It's not the right fit. I think you want something where you can maybe focus more on the forms and stuff like that, and let me recommend this school to you because I think that would be more your speed. That's what I would do now, and that's what I would do back then. That's the advice I would tell my past self, because I think people would appreciate it if you go like, well, everything you want out of martial arts is totally legit. It's not exactly what I offer here at the school. What I do is more geared towards this, that, or the other thing. So, certainly go ahead and try out the class and see if you like it. But I actually think maybe this other style or this other school might be a better fit. To actually have the courage to say, maybe my school's not for you. Because I know what I offer. It has value. I have confidence in what I do. But I also know that it's not for everyone. And that's okay. Not everyone who walks in the door will fit in here or should fit in here. And that's okay. And I don't have to get upset because someone doesn't accept my way of doing things, right?
Yeah, especially we have low ceilings too.
Exactly, right? If you can levitate because of your Tai Chi, you'll be stuck to the ceiling here, right? So I think back then, like I was really harsh with that guy. Not the first time. The first time I was just off put that the guy was just like so scared. But I should have realized this guy has some kind of trauma. He has something like maybe the solution for that guy during the first visit is like, you know what? I think my group classes might be a little too intense for you, but you might actually benefit from doing private training with me where we can do things really slow and step by step. I wasn't even thinking that way, even like a way to still monetize someone who wouldn't go into my class right away, because it was always like, you have to join the school. And once you're at the school, if you are deemed worthy, then you can take private lessons. You fuck that, all right? No. Now, maybe the group class is not for you. You should just take private lessons with me and we can work on these things step by step. Yeah. I wasn't thinking like that. And the second time he came was purely ideological. Honestly, if I look at my intentions, I felt that he had rejected me and he had rejected Learning Teng Wing Chun. And then he came crawling back. And it was like, in a very Cobra Kai way, no. Now the power dynamic is shifted. I'm not trying to get you as a student. You're trying to get me as an instructor, and I don't want you. And that was my ego. And honestly, that was pretty shitty.
Yeah.
And that is not how I look. Like I cringe when I think of that past version of myself, but it's true. That's the way I was, right? And it took me a while to kind of purge that idea from my system. And it took me a while after leaving the IWTA to realize that really what I'm doing here is a benefit for the students. They come here for a sense of community to get what they want. Not everyone who comes here is a fighter. And so they might not go down the fighter track. And not everyone who comes here wants to be an instructor, so they don't go down the instructor track. Some people are just here because they enjoy it. Yeah. And other people might want to be more of a fighter or more of an instructor or whatever. And then we find ways to allow these different groups to thrive under the banner of City Wing Chun. But not everyone who comes in my school has to be this one-way, super hardcore, dedicated fighter who also wants to be an instructor. All right, so I don't have to put this burden on them, right? Like Krishnamurti always said, the teacher imposes their burden on the student. How can I take that burden off and just let people enjoy Wing Chun? And that's been my mission since I quit the IWTA in 2011. Okay. And that's all I got to say about that. All right, everyone. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Kung Fu Genius. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the Kung Fu Genius. Hit that bell for notifications. Like this episode. And if you have any questions you want me to answer on a future episode of the Kung Fu Genius, put them in the comments below. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.
Word is I'm a Kung Fu genius. Technique speaks for me, not lineage. Forget Jet Li, cause I'm the one. Many call me seafood, but to you I'm Seagung. And I produce masters. You surpassed us. Your Kung Fu stiffer than corpse and caskets. City Wing Chun is the house I built. Violate the gate and your blood gets spilt. Alex Richter, always the victor.
All right, everyone. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Kung Fu Genius. As always, don't forget to like the Kung Fu Genius, subscribe to the Kung Fu Genius. That.
Here it comes.
Here it comes. Now shut up.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Okay.
Yes. We made it.
You can't screw this up, you know.
Okay,
Or would
here
you
we
like
go.
us to give you one
Shut
more
up.
night?
Shut up.
Because we can't wait forever.
Quiet. Quiet, Dre. Punch the shit out of you. Get the fuck out of here, both of you.
Where?
Earphones off. You get the fuck out of here. Out of here. Out of here. You're going to try to get me to get out of here. I don't even want to look at you. Out of here. Over there, turn around. I don't want to see your faces so I can get this done. Look the other way, you sons of bitch.
Because we can't wait forever.
Lots of gems, lots of weapon retention, lots of... Don't be coming up in here with your 7-foot ass talking about, I learned wooden dummy, I can't defend a straight punch.
All right, perfect.
All right, peeps. On today's... Oh, wait, hold on.
Just remember there's no jacket required.
I can't dance, I can't talk. Only thing about me is the way that I walk.